Hi there, folks. My name's Damon. I'm with Penn State's Office of Student Aid. Today, we're going to walk through our webinar tonight about finalizing and maintaining your aid. As we're kind of going along through this, we do have a little Q&A section that's going on throughout the duration of this presentation. You're welcome to include your questions in that chat. During this presentation, please keep your mics and all that off and cameras off, as this video will be recorded and will actually be posted sometime early next week. When that video is posted, you'll actually receive an email confirmation just saying that video is live and there. So if you have any questions about what happened on the video, you can refollow up that in our YouTube page. Again, definitely use the chat feature down below and type in all your questions down there. And now we're going to get this started. So welcome again. Thank you for joining us. Through this presentation, we're going to walk you through some of the next important steps in the financial aid process. Much of this information can be found on our website at psu.edu/cost-aid. And then again, the presentation slides will be available next week on our website, and the YouTube channel is here. You can click on the or look the link here too. Again, make sure you send your questions to the Q&A, and we'll gladly have our backend, the staff here at the end of this, and our backend staff answering all those questions as quickly as you can. So here's our agenda for today. So first off, did you file your FAFSA? How to complete to-do list items and view holds in LionPath, how to accept, decline, or decrease loan offers, learn where to complete your loan entrance counseling and master promissory note, how to apply for additional loans, satisfactory academic progress, how to certify outside scholarships, and then lastly, we're going to go over delegate access. So first, to file your free application for federal student aid or FAFSA. So for the upcoming academic year, you'll have to file your 26-27 FAFSA. If you have not done so already, you currently still have time to do so. Again, it's free, it's not required for you, but we definitely recommend it. There are a lot of benefits to filing your FAFSA. That's how you're eligible for your federal loans. Many federal aid sources out there. Some scholarships require having it on file, so it's definitely an important FAFSA to file. Again, for the fall and spring semester, you will do your 26-27. The only caveat to that is currently there's about a 6 week hold currently on us or the website's uploading new FAFSAs. So we still recommend you do the FAFSA. It just might not be for about 6 weeks. So around end of June, we anticipate the systems being back up. So you can file your FAFSA still. Again, that'll be about a little pause before we're able to upload new FAFSAs. But definitely make sure. Now, it is only applicable to the 26-27 FAFSA. If you are in the summer session, you'll need to do a 25-26 FAFSA, and you're still able to upload those. The reason for the 25-26 being filed is because summer is actually the end of the current academic year. So if you're joining in summer, you're actually joining in this current academic calendar year. So again, for fall and spring, you'll do your 26-27. And if you're in the summer start/leap program, you'll do your 25-26 FAFSA. And there at the very bottom of our screen, you have the studentaid.gov apply for aid FAFSA. Again, if you have any questions on that one, definitely go onto the student aid website. It's a really great tool out there for you. And again, filing your FAFSA is not required. We do recommend it. So how do we go over to-do list items? So these are things to keep in mind when you're looking through LionPath. Some of you may have looked at LionPath already. If you have not, that's totally okay. You still have some time to do so. Definitely familiarize yourself with this because LionPath is one of those things where a lot of information is posted. If you see here in the middle of the screen, you have your holds, to-do list, and milestones. And this is our communication center. There'll be quick links there, as well as this is how you grant delegate access, which is something we'll do. I'll show you folks how to do that later on in the presentation. Again, LionPath is definitely a very important tool. You have your My Information, My Finances. When you get in more into your coursework, this is where you'll see a lot of your information as well. So definitely, if you have not already, log into LionPath, just look around, familiarize yourself with it. Again, that's how where a lot of things are posted, where your to-do list items are, any holds, any communications we have sent are all posted to LionPath then. So this will be one of those things in to-do list. So there you see a to-do list on the left-hand corner. This can be seen in LionPath, and also if you have delegated access, you can see it through here. items that need to be completed will be added here. If it says initiated, it means there's an action that's needed. As you see in the right-hand corner, for example, this student has the waiver enroll health insurance. It's showing as initiated. So that means they still have further action or the submitted information is incomplete. Here at the top right corner, you see received. That means we have the information. So that means, for example, this student we received their FAFSA. And then this word, when it shows it as completed, the items are removed. So if you're ever looking at your to-do list and we're wondering, where'd that to-do list item go? It means you completed it and it's now no longer on your to-do list. Again, we post a lot of important information on your to-do list, so definitely take the time to again look through. Just when you're looking through the line path, definitely click on all the things, look at everything. We definitely tinker with the to-do list because some of you actually might have a to-do list item to do now, so you definitely want to look at that now, and complete those items as they are needed. So this is where I'll mention the verification. So again, with that FAFSA freeze currently happening, again, it won't be till probably end of June or later June, we anticipate that coming through. If you were selected for verification or any of these items, we definitely recommend you still upload that information. That way it's there, and we will be able to review that later on in June. Whenever you're looking at your verification, here's what it'll look like. It'll show initiated, meaning there's steps to complete, where the student was selected to verify their identity as well as their high school transcript. So what verification is too, is the federal government can ask students and families to verify submitted information on the FAFSA. If you have been selected, again, these items will show up on your to-do list. Not all students are selected. This is a randomized process. The Office of Student Aid may require additional information to assist with this process. And be advised, these items do need to be completed before your aid is dispersed. So again, if you have a verification item on your to-do list right now, please submit the items, reach out to the appropriate offices, and that way we have that stuff. And if there's any questions that our offices may have, that information, you might have the information uploaded. That way we can, help you along that process. But definitely, if you were selected, please upload that information then too. And again, this is not something that we don't select. It's a federal requirement. And again, if you don't have the items completed, your federal aid won't disperse then as well. So how do we go about accepting your financial aid in Lion Path? So May 1st, that button was opened up where you could select your aid. A lot of you folks may have tried to accept it before May 1st, and it was kind of grayed out. And I'll show you what that looks like a little later. But now you can accept your aid, any aid that offers that might be out there. So on the left-hand corner, you see the aid sources that must be accepted to use towards your summer or your semester balance. So the federal direct loans, subsidized or unsubsidized, your graduate plus loan, if you have a private alternative loan or a private educational loan, that needs to be accepted. And then if you are offered a federal work study, that will need to be accepted as well. Again, these are the only items you have to accept. All other items will be accepted for you. But just make sure if you were offered these and you plan to utilize them, you'll need to accept those in Lion Path. Here are some things to keep in mind whenever you're looking at these. Is it a fall versus spring semester aid source? Definitely be mindful of your billable versus non-billable expenses, the estimated financial aid awarded, how financial aid is dispersed, and the estimated payment to university. Accepting these resources, again, is done by the student. Parents, you cannot do this for the student, as this is something done by the student. We do have a step-by-step instructions on our YouTube page that are a very helpful tool as well. Again, the items on the left-hand corner, what you need to accept, just to again verify that, put that down. You have your federal direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans. If you have a graduate plus loan, a private alternative loan, then a federal work study, the items you'll need to accept. So how do we accept this stuff? So you have to log into your Lion Path. You may have the students, faculty, staff login. That's the primarily way you'll log into Lion Path. You'll select My Finances, that green button there. It was about like the middle of like right-hand corner of the screen. You'll then select the financial aid year. So for this upcoming academic year, even though it's 26, 27, it's just aid year 2027. You'll then select View Award Details, and then you'll accept decline the awards. Again, log into LionPath, My Finances, Click on the aid year 2027 after you select financial aid, and then view award details, and you can accept decline. Now, if you are in the summer, it'll be a 2026 is the aid year, not 2027. Again, same process, just selecting a different academic year. So how do we accept these? So here's what, when you select go to accept your awards, here's what that page will look like. So first, we want to make sure to let you know that grants and scholarships will be accepted for you. Again, if you must accept a private education loan if you applied for one. If you apply for the Parent Plus loan, that's also automatically accepted for you. And then when you're going through, you can manually select or accept or decline using the check boxes there on the screen. You can use accept all, you can use decline all, you can accept a partial amount. If you select a partial amount, you just have to make sure you press the accepted type box there, and then please make sure you press submit. A lot of times what will happen is a student or family will say, "We accepted this award. Why didn't it process through?" They ended up forgetting to press the submit button. Happens all the time. So again, if you are using your subsidized, if you're offered a subsidized and unsubsidized loan, or any conjunction of those two, if you plan to utilize those, you have to accept them. If you don't, totally okay. They're there if you need them. And just to make, and the private education loans, if you apply for a private loan, you have to accept that as well. Parent Plus loans are accepted on your behalf, and then again, grants and scholarships. So this student had the tuition discount. If you're in an employee of the university and you're using the discount, that usually won't show up until later on in the semester, later, closer to the start of the semester. So if you are employee and you are utilizing the discount, just don't be worried that will show up later on in the semester. All right. So after you've accepted your direct loans, you have a couple tasks to do. So some of you may have done this already. Great. Kudos to you if you have already. And some of you may have not. Totally okay. So for your direct loans, you have to sign a master promissory note and complete your loan insurance counseling. These are federal requirements, so you definitely want to make sure you have these completed before the semester starts. Um, it doesn't take that long to do, honestly, probably 10 minutes if that. These actually might currently be on your line path, so you definitely want to go, again, they'll go to your to-do list, so you definitely want to see if they're on there. Again, these are federal requirements. If these are not completed, your aid will not disperse. So you must have these items completed. Again, you can go to studentaid.gov and you can go complete those now. You can go via through your if you click on the student aid website, or sorry, if you click on your to-do list, you'll actually be able to have the links there to, as well. Again, you definitely want to do your master promissory note and loan insurance counseling, as those are federally required items that if they are not there, the disbursement of those loans will not happen. So definitely, if you have not done so already, go on your to-do list and complete those items, or you can go to studentaid.gov and you can complete them there as well. And here's just where you complete those. This is on the studentaid.gov website. If you scroll on down to popular topics, you'll see the complete master promissory note and loan insurance counseling. So definitely, if you have not done so already and you accepted those, go into studentaid.gov and and complete those two items in as well. So how do we apply for additional loans? So first, here's just kind of what your three loan options are. So you have your federal direct and or unsubsidized loan, your subsidized and or unsubsidized loan. This is in your student's name. So again, just student's name. That's all. Automatically considered with a FAFSA on file. So again, while we like to ask you to file your FAFSA, that's how you're eligible for this award. Again, this item does need to be accepted in line path. Traditionally, this is a 6-month grace period for a payment. So that's either after you graduate or you're no longer enrolled in an academic university. So again, 6 months after, and this is in the student's name, and you're automatically eligible, you're considered for it with a FAFSA application. So next we have our Federal Direct Plus loan. This is in the parent's name, and then you must complete the FAFSA as well. The loan, again, is automatically accepted for you. You can choose up to 3 repayment options on the application. So definitely when you are applying for this loan, click whatever repayment option works best for you. There's no right or wrong on that one. Just make sure you remember what repayment option you selected. Then lastly, you have your private educational loans. So this is in the student's name with an eligible cosigner. Again, this item must be accepted in LionPath, and this is typically paid after the student graduates or is no longer enrolled. So whenever you are applying for the private educational loans, just make sure you clarify what the repayment option terms are. Again, most are 6 months after you graduate, but definitely clarify to make sure that, you don't have a random payment due after you accept that loan. So again, just clarify when you're applying for those loan applications. So a lot of you folks may ask, why are we only eligible for the $5,500 in the federal subsidized and unsubsidized loan? So that actually is federal guidelines. You must be at the credit totals. So for your freshman standing, essentially what it amounts to being is 0 to 29 credits. So that's where you sit at $5,500. When you are at sophomore standing or 29.1 to 59 credits, you'll be eligible for up to $6,500. And then for your junior credit status, and then your senior credit status, you'll be eligible for $7,500. So again, this is federal guidelines. We're not able to increase those loans amount as they are set by, that's how they're set. Again, you'll see the $5,500. And again, it's based off the total number of credits successfully completed towards your degree. And that's how we get that information in as well. And these are your overall aggregate limits. So this is when if you are utilizing these year after year, this is going to be your total limit you can use for dependent undergraduates. And then below that, you have independent students or dependent students with a plus loan denial. So if you do get a plus loan denial, you are eligible for some additional funding through the unsubsidized loan. So definitely, if you have that denial, if you won't be able to do those applications for some time, but if you do get a denial, reach out to our office and we can award you an additional unsubsidized loan. And there, graduate professional students have a higher amount, and then medical students has this higher amount as well. Again, this is based off the total number of credits successfully completed towards your degree then as well. So through all this, we want to make sure that we are maintaining our aid. So this is the federal policy, federal guidelines, the satisfactory academic progress. So satisfactory academic progress, or SAP, and aid eligibility. So a student must require or requires a GPA of 2.0 or higher, or cumulative GPA, and then 3.0 for educational and grad students. There must be a course completion rate of 67% or higher, and then the 150% maximum time frame. The student must be enrolled in half-time enrollment status each semester, so that's 6 credits or above. Anything below 6, you're not eligible. SAP is reviewed at the end of each year, or each semester, sorry, not each year, each semester, and then you can still receive aid while in SAP warning semester. You will lose your federal eligibility if not meeting SAP. There is an appeal process for any extenuating circumstance. That's something we have staff who can go over that process with you. So definitely make sure when you are looking at this, if you're looking at, why am I not meeting eligibility? There are a bunch of guidelines in place. You're always welcome to reach out and we can review that with you. And then other aid sources may have different requirements. So, for example, if you are applying for one of those private educational loans, they may require you meeting SAP eligibility. So definitely, again, one of those items you need to clarify when you're applying for loans, that if they are SAP eligible or not SAP eligible. And again, it's that 2.0 cumulative GPA, and again, it's 3.0 for educational and grad students. You must have a course completion rate of, again, 67% or higher and be at 150% maximum time frame and have at least half-time enrollment status each semester. And this is reviewed each semester. For this, communications are sent to students with SAP specifics. And then here's the Family Education Rights Act and Privacy Act of 1975, or FERPA, prevents the Office of Student Aid from sharing any SAP information without the student's permission to do so. Again, so if you as a parent call in and say, why isn't my student getting their loans? We can't review it with you unless they have selected delegated access under the My Grade section. And that's where we'll be able to have those conversations. So students, again, we'll go over what delegated access is. It is very important you select My Grades. That way, if this situation does happen, we're able to review it with parents if you're not able to review it. So how do we calculate your completion rate? So you'll add the total number of attempted course credits, and then you'll add up your total course, then you add together your total completed course credits, and then last you divide the number of completed course credits by the total of attempting courses. So if you are taking 15 credits and you complete all 15 credits, your completion rate is 100%. If you take 15 credits and drop a 3 credit course, your completion rate is 80% or there. Again, you have to be above 67%. So if there's any point in which you are thinking of dropping a course, please contact our office before you do so. Not after you do so, because at that point it's too late. So if you are thinking of dropping a course, contact us and we can run the completion rate to make sure you're still within SAP guidelines. Again, don't do it after because then it's too late. So definitely if you are looking to do so, again, contact our office. F grades, late job credits, and withdrawal all count as credits attempted but not completed. And the completion rate is calculated by all attempted versus completed credits towards a student degree. So again, it's very critical when you're looking at dropping courses or any of these items. Reach out to our offices and we can have those conversations with you to make sure you're still within SAP and what those future things look like as well. So other important reminders. So first off, I'll give you a second to look at this our little QR code here, Financing Strategy Resources for Students. We have our office website there. Definitely, if you have not done so already, take the time to look at that website. This is a very valuable website. We post lots of information on there as well. So as I mentioned kind of at the beginning, we wanted to go over external awards or outside scholarships. If you are awarded an outside scholarship, you'll actually need to provide the information to the Office of the Bursar. The awarded external or outside scholarship should be sent to Penn State Office of Bursar, the external awards, and our address is there as well. Once the external scholarship is successfully processed, it'll show up in the financial aid summary. So if this is again, whenever you're applying for outside scholarships, when you are doing the application, again, just say if you get awarded it, here's the address you'll send it to. Please include your 9-digit Penn State ID number on that application or the actual award amount. That way, the bursar's office knows what application or what student to have that name to. So again, when you're getting these, include your 9-digit Penn State ID number, and then they'll take it from there. Generally, when you are awarded these for your fall semester, they don't post about till a couple weeks in, but you're always welcome to reach out to the bursar's office, and they can let you know, make sure they have the check. Sometimes those external award committees will either email it on your behalf or give you the information to send yourself. Just again, whenever you clarify that with the awarding committee where you get that external award, again, here, make sure you send it to the correct address. And include that 9-digit Penn State ID number on there as well, so they get the check added to the right student account. So, as I was kind of mentioning previous, what delegated access is. So, this is essentially giving someone the permission to talk on your behalf. So, this is where a parent or guardian can access student information in LimePath. Students are responsible for setting this up. So, students, if you've not done so already, definitely give this a look-see. Again, this is done through LimePath, and you will have to select the items on the right-hand corner. What all? So again, we like to say select financial aid, so you can talk to us. Holds and to-do lists are also a very helpful tool. And then again, that my grades are required for permission to speak about eligibility in SAP. Uh, so you can definitely click any of those items, whatever your preference is. But these are the 4 that we recommend. That way, if you have to contact our office, we can help you folks and we're able to talk to you. And this is something the students will do. Parents, you shouldn't be doing this. The students have to do it. You can give your break off of this one. But again, select financial aid, holds and to-do list, and then my grades. And those are the important items for you to select. Here is what that page will look like. So when you're granting delegated access, log into LimePath, select My Information there in the top right-hand corner of the screen, or depending on what device you're using, it might show up a little differently, but it's under My Information. Click Grant. Once you click on that, you'll click Grant Delegate Access at the bottom left-hand corner. Scroll all the way down, you'll see it, and then you'll see Create New Delegate. Follow the instructions and create a PIN. After that, it'll ask you to put in the email of the preferred, whoever the user is, and you'll follow to-do list. So whenever you contact the office, You'll include your name, the email address you have on for delegate access, the student's name, date of birth, and then their Penn State ID number as well. So again, very important step to do so. So definitely select that financial aid, grants, and to do/holds. And that way, if you call our offices, we're able to talk to you and kind of help you out along the way. Again, this is done through LinePath, so the students have to do it. You select My Information at the top right of LinePath. Click on Grant Delegate Access at the bottom left, create new delegate, and then follow the instructions from there. So, how do we communicate with students? So, many offices, including our own, will use email and LinePath to keep in touch. You may have gotten barraged by emails already, so definitely check your spam folders too, because sometimes those emails go to your spam folder. We will use your Penn State email, so that might not fully be authorized open yet, but definitely be checking that if you have access to that, as that's how we'll communicate with you. And again, a lot of offices will use your Penn State email or use LionPath to post information. Again, LionPath's a great tool. It's where you have your schedule, your holds, to-do list, all these wonderful things. So definitely, if you have not, get into LionPath and look around and see there could be some items there for you to do now. So definitely do that as well. It's really important to monitor it because again, email and your LionPath and email to ensure that there are no outstanding tasks which may delay the processing of your financial aid and payments. Again, we'll post all information here. We constantly email you. So get in the habit of checking your emails if you have not already. So if you have questions about financial aid, you have our little QR code here. You can also go to our website. We have a lot of information posted on there as well. And then I wanted to make sure too that we do have other webinars online as well. So definitely, if you have not done so already, go to our YouTube page there. So currently, we're going to transition to our more live Q&A section with my colleague Craig and I, and we'll have that section there. We'll answer your questions as we go through the chat as well then too. So stay on. We're going to do our live portion where we answer questions through the chat then. All right, Craig, you ready for the fun?
I'm ready.
Mhm.
You are.
Let me see if we have any in here. All right, so I like the first and foremost one of where do students go to find their master promissory note and loan entrance counseling?
Yeah, both of those things are done at the same site where you file your FAFSA, studentaid.gov.
And then why are those items so important to complete?
Yeah, importantly, if those items are not done, then those direct loans cannot be dispersed. So you can go and complete those items now, or once you accept those loans on your LinePath account, we will put uh, links on your to-do list reminding you to go out and do those as well. You can click on the links and go right out to the page, or like I said, you can go to studentaid.gov and just take care of those right now. Once you do the master promissory note, that one's typically good for 10 years. You should be good to go. Unless you would change or have a break in your enrollment, you shouldn't really ever have to do the entrance counseling again either. But if you withdrew or took some time off, you may have to do that one again later. Something to keep in mind.
Perfect. I know this one gets asked too. Do the delegates get the email communication sent to them as well?
Yeah, correct. Once the student sets it up in their LinePath account, whatever they whoever they choose to set that up to, the email that they included on that will be emailed to that person then to go ahead and finish setting up their access and go from there. So, and once the student sets it up, just click on the link to the email, follow instructions. It's pretty simple.
All right, perfect. Just looking through here. Um, Great question is I kind of glanced over a little bit. Um, what are kind of some of the benefits of the parent plus loan versus our private student loans? I know we can't give like recommended lenders or anything, but what are some of the benefits of pros and cons to each one, I guess?
Yeah, sure. I can give you kind of an abbreviated version, and then on our website, there's pages of information to kind of help you decide. It really comes down to what works best based upon your financial situation. If there's any type of question about credit, then typically the Parent Plus loan is where we would recommend that you start because it's usually a much easier loan to qualify for. It's a much quicker loan process for sure. Bad news is it does come with and almost 9% interest rate, 8.94% this year. No matter what your credit score is, everybody pays the same. Also, there is over a 4% origination fee. With the new limitations next year, the maximum amount per year is $20,000. If you take out that full 20,000, only $19,100 and change is going to apply to the bill because the 4.228% comes off the top. So that's kind of the good news, bad news with the Parent Plus loan. As far as the private loans go, if the person that's going to co-sign has good income, good credit, good debt to income ratio, because it's just like borrowing money for anything else, you could do much better rate wise than you would do on the Parent Plus loan. The other advantages of the private loans would be typically they are deferred automatically. Parent Plus loan, you just have three different choices initially. You can either start paying right away, defer just the and pay just the interest, or defer completely. Of course, deferring 9% interest may not be the best financial decision. With the Parent Plus loan, it's the parent's name, so you're basically on the hook until you pay back the entire loan. With a private loan, parent or whoever else is going to co-sign is typically on the hook for maybe 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. After the student graduates and pays back the loan for a certain amount of time, that's depending upon each lender's, they will remove the co-signer so they're no longer responsible for the loan. So again, there's advantages and disadvantages of both. It really just depends upon your specific situation.
Perfect. Thank you, Craig.
Absolutely.
And also, I forgot to mention, when are the typical application timelines for the plus loan and private loans?
Yeah, typically for the fall next year, we're not even going to turn those on until around the middle of July. So we actually suggest, regardless of whether you're going to go Parent Plus loan or private loan, wait until the bill comes out. For the fall, the bill's going to come out August 1st. That way you know you can borrow exactly what you need and you're not borrowing more than what you need. Now, with the Parent Plus loan, like I said, it's much quicker. So that can be on the account before the bill is due at the end of the month easily. Private loan, probably not because the process is a little bit longer. However, as soon as that is offered on the account and the student accepts it, it shows as anticipated aid. And as long as the bursar knows it's going to cover the balance, the student would then be protected from any kind of late fees. So if you go with a private loan, it's very important for the student to watch their email and make sure that as soon as that's offered on their account, they go in and accept it right away. There's what's called a 10-day mandatory right of rescission period. So it has to basically sit for 10 business days once it's accepted before those funds can disperse. But again, as soon as it's accepted, it shows as anticipated. So at that point, it protects you from late fees. So just watch your email and get used to checking that at least every week.
Perfect. All right. I know. So there's a lot of questions out here. So wonderful, guy. You guys do a really good job asking or typing all the questions. I see there's one here of how does Penn State determine financial need? If my family situation changes during the school year, what steps do I have to take to reevaluate my aid package?
Yeah, so that will be what we call a special circumstance. We have a team that reviews those. So basically, the process is this: if there is a reduction in income that has to be shown on a future year's tax data, for example, the 26-27 FAFSA is based upon 24 taxes. So if there was a change in 25 or 26, we could take a look at that to see if you might be eligible for additional federal aid sources. Now, the process at Penn State is we must have the tax data first. So if it happened in 25 and your taxes are filed, you can reach out now. If the reduction is occurring in 2026, we would not be able to look at it until you file your taxes for 26 next year. Good news is, if there is a change, the student could still get the aid for the upcoming year. It's just done retroactively at that point. So what will happen is reach out, and then they'll put a questionnaire on the student's account that'll show up on their to-do list in LinePath. The student will click on that link and print out the questionnaire. They will fill out the answers to that questionnaire based upon the tax year's data, submit it. We have a team that reviews it, and if it's going to change the aid at all, and I say if, because again, it comes down to federal aid options, really, then they will reach out to let you know how to finish the process and what documents to submit. Key things to remember: never ever go in and change anything on your FAFSA yourself. You don't want to do that. That will just cause more work for yourself. Never submit any documents to us unless we ask you to submit those, because again, both of those things can actually do really nothing but cost you aid potentially. So again, make sure the taxes are filed, reach out, fill out the questionnaire, and then wait for us to contact you to kind of explain the rest of the process.
All right, perfect, Craig. Just gonna keep giving you. There's a lot of questions here, so you're gonna get a lot of fun today.
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
Can a student have more than one delegate?
Yeah, absolutely. Student can put in as many delegates as they want, I believe. I don't think there's a limit as far as what I'm aware of. So I know they can do multiple for sure. But again, I don't know if there's an overall limit or not. That would have to be a question for maybe the folks that set up a line path. But I don't believe so. I think they can use as many as they want.
I don't think there is either. You can have, as long as you give them access, you should have to have many as you want. That's what I thought too. I just wanted to make sure. All right. So this one's a great one too. It kind of goes over those timelines you just discussed for loans. When do I seek a loan? I do not when they don't have their itemized bill yet.
Yeah, so I would suggest you start kind of doing some research and then groundwork. Right now you want to kind of make that decision if you think you're going to go the route of the Parent Plus loan or the private loan. But if you decide to go private loan, you can start the research and some preliminary work, maybe in early July. Like I said, the application is not going to open up until at least mid-July. But we really strongly suggest you wait until the bill comes out August 1st. That way you know exactly what you need to apply for. And again, as long as the student accepts it as soon as it's offered, should be no issues.
All right. Perfect. And then I know we have delegated access, but is there any other important accesses the students need to grant their parents or guardians?
Yeah, absolutely. For the Office of Financial Aid, it's or Student Aid, it's delegated access. For the bursars, it's called user access. It used to be called payer access. I believe it's now user access. So there are different accesses for financial aid and for bursars. You want to make sure you set up both of those for your parents or whoever you would like to be able to see your stuff and potentially pay your bill or help you pay your bill.
All right, perfect. This is a great question, actually. Um, can a loan cover off if you're living or cover rent if you're living off campus?
Yeah, absolutely. So regardless of whether you're living on campus or off campus, housing and food is built into your budget. Budget becomes part of what's called your cost of attendance. That's going to include your tuition fees, housing, and food, regardless of whether it's being charged by the university or by somebody else. All of that creates the cost of attendance. Your financial aid, including loans, scholarships, everything, cannot go above and beyond that cost of attendance, but those fees can certainly be used to pay for off campus rent. What typically happens, a loan comes in, it covers the billable charges due for tuition, etc. And then the excess is refunded to the student. Highly suggest you set up e-refund as soon as possible. That really expedites that refund process for you. And as soon as the student receives the refund, they can then use those fees to pay for rent, food, any other educational related expenses.
Perfect. Thank you, Craig. Um, this is also a great question too. When do the direct subsidized loans or unsubsidized loans need to be paid back?
Yeah, so as long as the student is a half time or more, so 6 credits or more every fall and spring, then those loans will be deferred until about 6 months after they graduate. So about 6 months after graduation, that's when they'll be expected to begin repayment on those loans. Okay, keep in mind if you're looking at those loans and you're not sure, you always want to take the subsidized loans first because the subsidized loan is not going to accrue any interest until after you graduate. So it's kind of interest free while the student's in school. The unsubsidized loan will accrue interest from the time it begins. About a month after the students take those loans, they'll get a letter sent to their home address from one of 3 companies that service the loans. Once you find out who your loan servicer is, if you want to reach out and ask about how much money would I have to pay to cover the interest only, that's something we would suggest or recommend you do, and it can save you lots of money in the end if you can do that while you're in school. But again, no need to. They'll both be deferred automatically until about 6 months after.
All right, perfect. And then one of those questions I kind of forgot to go over too. Do the students need to accept those federal loans?
Yeah, anything that is a loan has to be accepted. The only exception to that would be the Parent Plus loan. When parents apply for that one through the federal government site, they're accepting it there. So that one gets put onto the account automatically in accepted status. Any private loans, any federal direct loans, and any work study awards would have to be accepted before they can actually be used towards your bill. Um, yeah, so that's for sure. Any grants, scholarships, anything that is free money sources are automatically going to be accepted for you because we're assuming nobody's going to want to turn down any free money sources.
All right, wonderful. Just looking through these. Just to clarify too, if a student is enrolled in the summer session, what FAFSAs do they have to do?
Yeah, if it's a summer that's coming up now, that's part of the current academic year, part of 25-26. So for summer starting here in the next month or so, got to do the 25-26 FAFSA to be considered for aid. And then the 26-27 FAFSA is going to cover next fall. So fall of 26, spring of 27, summer of 27. So summer is a trailing semester at Penn State. That might be different in other institutions.
All right, perfect. And I see a bunch of questions on the 529 plan. Um, do you just want to say who and where those folks should go to for that, for those questions?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to reach out directly to your 529 provider. They all do have some variations about how things work. I can tell you from my experiences, we have one for my daughter. And for us, it was easy for me to reach out to them either by email or by phone call, request the amount of money that I needed once I had her bill. I had it deposited directly into my personal account, usually within 2 or 3 days. And then I could send an e-check to Penn State, usually within 2 or 3 days. So within 4 or 5 days, I could have the money to Penn State, bill paid, everything good to go. Now, if your provider requires a check to be sent, that might take a little bit longer to be processed. But again, every provider is a little different. So just reach out directly to your 529 provider, ask them what their process is, and go from there.
And then which office of ours works with the 529 plans?
So it's pretty much done through the bursar's office. So anything that has to do with paying the bill would be handled kind of through the bursar's office. So any questions, you can definitely reach out to them.
All right, wonderful. And I wanted to make sure to ask you, if a student was not offered a work study, how do they go about getting a work study? And if they don't want to do, they're not eligible for a work study, what are some other options for them to do, like to work on campus or off campus?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. So number one, federal work study is a need-based aid source. So and the first way to determine whether you're eligible at all would be to take your SAI as determined by your FAFSA data. That number must be lower than your cost of attendance. Both of those things you should be able to see in your account. So if your SAI happens to be above your cost of attendance, that means you have no need. You would not be eligible for work study at all. At Penn State, we have such a large population of students that are in Pell Grant range. So those are most needy students. So those are students that are initially offered work study. If you weren't offered it and you do have need based upon that formula, again, your SAI is definitely below your cost of attendance, you can reach out and be put on a wait list to see if we have additional work study awards available. Good news is we also have what are called wage payroll positions. Exactly the same as work study, it's just a matter of the difference between who's paying the bill. They're part-time jobs all over campus, lots of different places, 10, 5 to 10 hours per week. Everything's the same. You just don't need that work study award. In order to apply for a work study position, you have to have an award offered and accepted on your account before you can even submit an application. If you're going to look on campus, we suggest you look at places like within your program or department, because if you work within your program or department, then they know your name. So when some of those scholarship opportunities become available down the line, it might kind of help stack the deck in your favor a little bit. You can also look at places like food and housing. Sometimes some of those places you might get some additional benefit. You work for food services, I believe they might give you a free meal each time you work a shift. If you get a paycheck plus a free meal and you can lower your meal plan, now you're saving a little bit of money. Don't also be afraid to look off campus. There's lots of off campus employers that sometimes can be even better. Sometimes the pay might be better. Also, there could be some good educational benefit. A good example would be Sheetz convenience stores. We have lots of Sheetz, I think 5 or 6 Sheetz within a mile and a half of campus or so. Sheetz, I believe, starts at 16, 17, $18 an hour. After you've worked there for, I believe, 6 months, they'll give you up to $5,000, I believe, towards paying your school bill every year. So if you're going to work, do some research and see where you might be able to get some additional benefit. Lots of places out there that do things like that.
All right, perfect. And then one question is too, I forgot to ask. When students are applying for the loans, is there anything specific they should look for in terms of the loan terms? Should they be apply for like a fall only, spring only, or what are their options for selecting like the terms of the loan?
Yeah, that's a good question. So absolutely, you pretty much are in control. You can apply for whatever you would like to apply for. Now, instead of applying for a semester at a time and having to apply for maybe 2 loans each year, why not just apply for the full academic year? Whatever your bill is for the fall, double it because your spring bill should be the same, unless you'd be only working, only coming less than full time, something like that. Apply for the full amount. It's going to be split equally then between the fall and the spring semester. So when you apply, you get to choose the terms. So if you're applying for the full year, you're going to submit August through May the next year. If you wanted to do just a semester at a time, then you do August through December, January through May. So you get to choose. So again, when it comes down to it, applying once a year is probably easier than applying twice because every time you do apply, it does affect potentially your credit score, things like that. So it really just kind of comes down to your situation, but you're pretty much in control of what you want to do there.
All right, perfect. So I see a lot of questions about international students. How do international students, if any, how are they able to apply for loans, if at all?
Yeah, it's pretty challenging for international students. If you're not eligible for the FAFSA, your aid options are very limited. So your best options are going to be through your academic college. Most deadlines for those applications for scholarships is probably past at this point, but if you go to our website, there's information out there so you know what the process is for upcoming years. As far as loans go, typically, if you're looking at a private loan, your best option is going to be to have a cosigner living in the United States. Now, we do think with some of the changes coming to the Parent Plus loan, there might be some other options. So maybe there's going to be some more things available coming down the line. But right now, typically for a private loan, you would need to have a U.S. cosigner to qualify for that.
All right, perfect. And speaking of co-signers, just to clarify on private education loans, do students usually need a co-signer for those loans?
Yeah, unless the student would have, work history, a credit score of their own, more than likely. Anytime there's an amount that we're usually looking at for loans, it's almost going to require a cosigner. Now, if the student could qualify on their own, that can happen from time to time, especially if they're looking at, maybe you only need a couple $1,000s. It's a lower amount that you need to cover your balance of that gap. But keep in mind, if you qualify on your own, you might be looking at an interest rate of 12, 15, 20%. If you got a good cosigner with good credit in all the other things, you might get a much better rate. So there's definitely advantages to having a good cosigner out there. It's going to give you a much lower rate, give you many more options probably. But yeah.
All right, perfect. Just looking on through here. And just to clarify, unless there's a question about asking like when the recommendation is when to apply for loans, just to kind of clarify, like what's your recommendation on that one, Craig?
Yep. Let's wait till you see the bill. August 1st for the fall, the bill's going to come out. Wait till that point. That way you know exactly what you need to apply for. And when you apply, typically you can apply one of two ways, either for a specific amount or apply for the maximum amount. The maximum amount is going to give the student up to that cost of attendance. That cost of attendance is usually $5, 6, $7,000 above and beyond what your charges are, maybe more. Really, no reason for a student to have a $5 or $6,000 refund that isn't needed to pay the bill. So you're borrowing more than what you really need. If you wait till the bill comes out August 1st, you know exactly what you need to apply for. That way you're not over borrowing. That's the recommendation we have there.
All right, perfect. I see there's some questions about work studies. Are they, for your information, are they generally pretty flexible for students? Kind of what are the pros and cons of work study?
Yeah, they are very flexible. I mean, it is federal work study. It is very flexible. The only real advantage of work study over a wage payroll position, wage payroll also very flexible. Most of the off-campus jobs very flexible as well. We hire lots of college students, especially, University Park and State College. But the only advantage of work study is I believe the income that the students earn from work study job do not count towards their income on future years' taxes and FAFSA. So you get a little bit of a break there, but other than that, really no difference.
All right, perfect. See the questions are starting to slow down here. Um, it's a good one too, actually. If a student is doing a study abroad program, are they still eligible to utilize loans for those study abroad programs?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as it's in a better program and a program where they're going to be paying tuition and fees and everything to Penn State just like they normally would, everything works exactly the same. So really no difference there. If you're going to do the study abroad, some things to consider would be make sure you reach out to the Education Abroad office because sometimes there's scholarships you can apply to there. Also check with your department and program. And sometimes for those out-of-state students, sometimes it can actually even be cheaper for you to do a work study or do a study abroad because in a lot of the programs, those out-of-state students will pay in-state tuition for that semester only. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, as long as they're paying the bill to Penn State just like normal, all aid sources, including loans, works exactly the same.
All right, perfect. And this is a good question on timelines. Is it too late to apply for work study?
Definitely not. No. So again, if you have that work study award, make sure that you would accept it because it does have to be accepted before you can even submit an application. I would recommend if you're starting in the fall, you start to apply probably by early to mid July, because you do have to go through the HR and the hiring process. That can take several weeks. If you wait until you get on campus at the end of August, you might not be hired and through HR until September, maybe even October. So you're going to cut into the time that you have to earn your funds. Work study typically gives you an opportunity to earn up to $4,000 for the year. So if you're going to do that, apply in July so that way you can hopefully begin working as soon as you get on campus and give you a much longer chance or better chance of earning the full $4,000.
All right, perfect. Oh, and I saw this pop up earlier too. If a student is using GI Bill or GI benefits, what's the best office to contact for those or that process?
Yeah, you're going to go to the Office of Veterans Affairs. So reach out to them directly. They handle anything pertaining to the GI Bill, anything military. So fantastic folks in there. They'll help out and take care of everything for you and make sure you're good to go.
All right, perfect. Let me see what else. Oh, this is actually a great question. Do we have to accept the aid every year, or do loans and aid automatically get accepted based on the previous years?
Yeah, this is a good question. And you do have to accept every year. Every year is looked at differently. So new loan applications, new FAFSA application, everything starts over. So just because you accepted one year, things might change a different year. You might have more scholarships. You may not need to use all the loans from one year to the next. So every year is different. Every year would have to be accepted again.
All right, perfect. And this is also another great one. What happens if I overborrow and then the loan provider overpays the bill? Does the school return the money?
Yeah, so at least initially, once the bill is paid, any overpayment is going to be refunded. Now, if it's a parent plus loan, it could be refunded to the parent because it's money that they're borrowing. If it's a private loan, that would be refunded to the student. Once it's refunded, then again, the student can use it or the parent can use it as they see fit to pay for education related expenses. If you wanted to return it to your lender, you certainly could do that as well. That can be handled through the bursar's office. There is a form you can fill out in there to do that, or if it's done within 10 days, I believe, of the loan is dispersing. And sometimes we can make those adjustments. So that way you don't have to go through those extra steps to get the funds returned. But yeah, if you have extra funds, you can always return it to the lender. So that way that amount gets lowered. The only thing that won't be really included on the billable charges that you have to factor in there for really is textbooks. But I can tell you now, I spent more money on individual textbooks than my daughter has spent probably on her whole semester's textbooks so far in her college career. When I was in school years ago, I had books that were $150, $200 per book. I think the most she's ever spent is about $250 for a semester. So that's at least a little bit cheaper today than it used to be.
Perfect. Thank you, Craig. So we have about 5 minutes left, folks. We're gonna keep for our 5 minutes left for our kind of like live portion of this. After that, we'll keep running through your questions here in the Q&A. But definitely keep typing those in. We'll answer them as best we can then. For you, Craig, when students are applying for loans, what is the amount? Like, what can they apply up to?
Yeah, so basically, like I said, that cost of attendance, which is your tuition fees, your housing and food, again, whether it's on campus or off campus, all of that, plus all that miscellaneous stuff. So again, it's usually $5,000 or $6,000 above, which gives you that cost of attendance. You should be able to see that if you log into your account. You can get up to the cost of attendance minus any other aid sources is what you could borrow up to. If you would
Perfect.
get aid that would come in to put you over your cost of attendance, then we would have to reduce a loan or something to keep you at that. And that's a federal regulation. So we cannot allow you to go over that unless there would be extenuating circumstances and a process you'd have to go in and ask about. But yeah.
Wonderful. I knew we'd see it eventually. Is there a limit on the Parent Plus loan for the upcoming academic year?
Yeah, there is. Unfortunately, starting July 1st, there's big changes. We're looking at $20,000 per year per dependent student. So if you have more than one student, it'd be 20,000 each and only 65,000 lifetime. So that's a big difference between what it used to be. So especially for our out-of-state students where tuition's obviously a little higher, You could be looking at a combination of Parent Plus loan and private loan. And if you're going to do that, you might want to consider private all from the beginning because, as I said, if you've got good debt to income ratio, good income, good credit, all that stuff, you might do much better rate wise. But again, it really just comes down to what your individual situation is and what works best for you. You can do both. You can do a combination of a Parent Plus loan and a private loan as well. As long as, again, the total amount, including the other aid, doesn't go over that cost of attendance, you've got options.
All right, perfect. Let's kind of see one question up here is when they're applying for loans and if they're attending all 4 years, when they're applying for that, when do they apply for? So will it be four separate loans? Can they apply for one large loan?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no way to apply for one loan. It is done by academic year. And even for the academic year, typically that's fall and spring. So if the student would come in a summer, that would be a separate loan as well, even though it's part of the academic year. So for the 1 year loan, the most you can get would be for fall and the spring combined. And again, there's no way to predict because costs can increase or decrease. So you would have to apply for four separate loans, one for each academic year.
Perfect. I'm going to give you one last one, Craig, too, because I forgot. Um, if a student's aid is not reflected on Line Path, what could be the issue of why their FAFSA is not there? Like social
Yeah,
security numbers or something like that?
yeah, absolutely. So that's probably the biggest issue. It could be a social security number. I know earlier this year we had over 3,200 students that we were reaching out to, trying to call and then leave messages for to let them know to update their social security number in their Line Path account. If the students use the Common App, it doesn't require the social security number. So if you didn't put it on there, that's where we get the information to put in the Line Path. If we have nothing to compare with the FAFSA, we can't load the FAFSA. So if you're in that situation, you just want to go in and add your social security number to Line Path, counts.psu.edu, very quick and easy, and you should be set. Other than that, it could be also a birth date is wrong. It could be a name was misspelled. It could be a whole bunch of different reasons. But in those cases, typically there would be a selection on your account, usually on your to-do list in Line Path, saying we need you to verify your name, your social security number, your date of birth. Click on those links. It'll give you the forms that you need to fill out and give you the instructions of what you need to submit to us. But more than likely, it's something like that.
All right. Perfect, Craig. So I'm going to kind of conclude our live portion of this. We're going to keep typing the questions here. But thank you, folks, all for joining us. And we hope you folks have a great rest of your evening. Again, this will be posted sometime next week when this is online. So you will get an email when this is posted. Again, thank you very much for joining us. And you folks have a great rest of your evening then.